But okay, well, it is 7 o'clock my time anyway. It's something o'clock somewhere else. And we'll just start this. So for anyone who may be new to it, usual thing, this is just a live discussion. It's for people to throw in things that they want to talk about. It's not me talking, hopefully. It's not me just talking for a couple of hours or however long it happens to go on for. It typically lasts for a couple of hours. And what have we got this week? We've got the top 5 rounded out now for Mythic Antorus and method release frozen. Okay, I'm going to stop the upload. Balls. How do I stop the upload? Let's just close everything down. Right, that helps. Evening, guys. So hopefully that will work a bit better. Yes, so method released their kill video yesterday. A little, I thought it was a little bit strange anyway because there were hi Mahal. Usually they wait till there's 5 killed it, and then they do it. And then I was sort of, oh, that's a bit strange. But as people were pointing out, where it was the Chinese guild, wasn't it, that's got World 4th, that was streaming their progress, and when they streamed when you stream a 3% wipe, I think Method, well, I'm quite sure Method just took the view. Bugger it, everyone's seen the fight anyway. We might as well just upload our video. So yeah, I was watching that last night. It looked actually very strange. It wasn't what I expected at all. Like, you could sort of see, because at first glance you look at it and you think, it doesn't look that hard. It keeps telling me I'm dropping frames. I'm not happy about this. It kept saying that it's yeah, it didn't look that hard. And then at the end of it there was a comment of, oh, is that it? As if they were expecting something else. But I think in terms of the coordination it probably is. It also looked like it was the sort of thing that maybe requires a lot of coordination with the people sort of overlapping those different circles and stuff like that, which is like I haven't really looked into the mythic mechanics at all. I had not really looked into anything other than noting that there's a red Argus that was sort of data mined. So that was the first time I'd seen anything of it yesterday when I watched Method's video, because I don't usually bother too much about something like that when I'm not about to do it myself. We've just killed 6th boss yesterday. We killed Imonar yesterday. That's where we are. Good evening, Piranha Boy. Do I feel like Antorus is missing a cutscene or something? How do we get from defeating Agramar to all of the Pantheon slumped in their chairs? Yes, it is a strange one, isn't it? I'm still not sure it's adequately explained how we get the Pantheon full stop. The last I remember, there's all sorts of confusion about this. The last thing I remember about the Pantheon was from Warcraft Chronicles. And it was describing how the Pantheon were defeated by Sargeras. They'd attempted to sort of meld with Keepers on Azeroth, and that had failed. And I got the strong impression, okay, it's not proof, but I got the strong impression from there that that was basically it. The Pantheon were finished. Obviously not, they're back. But yeah, quite how they took on some sort of form. And the form itself was not large either, so we assume these are avatars of the Pantheon, as opposed to the Pantheon themselves as well, because they're quite small. They're no bigger than, say, the avatar of Sargeras, and much smaller than Sargeras was when they plucked him from that cloud. There are a lot of cutscenes in Antorus, it has to be said. But in terms of whether they fully explain stuff, I don't think they really do. I thought, yeah, it would have been nice, not with cutscenes maybe so much, because I think it might have been nice to have had more quests. You know, there was a time when you used to have quests in raids. I'm not saying they were there all the time, but there were a few raid quests that you could do that helped tell a bit of a story. That would have been quite nice, because then, yeah, it might have explained a little bit more than it did, I thought. So I'm still a little bit perplexed as to exactly what's happened, really, other than the Pantheon came back in avatar form because they weren't very big, because they could sit around us as basically giants, but no more than that. And at the end of it all, everything just disappears, and now all we see is a little red star in the sky where Argus used to be. So what? No, I don't know what's happened there. You know, we just got the impression, basically the whole, you know, it's like a time loop prison, something, I don't I don't know. I don't know. And I don't fully understand really Illidan's role. Illidan was described as being the jailer of Sargeras. I don't get what his role is, because Illidan could have just left at that point. The Pantheon weren't saying to Illidan, "Oh, by the way, you should probably do a thing here." He could have left, and he didn't, and I don't know what's happened. Purifying Agrimar, how did that happen? I don't even know how Agrimar became corrupted, really, properly. Punch it until it changes colour. Well, exactly, this is quite right, Rick, yes, that's what we do exactly. Punch it till it changes colour. We had the same thing with any number of bosses in the past that were really good, but, you know, they were misguided until it gives loot. But, yeah, I have no idea at all. Oh, you can imagine any number of things. You can imagine you weakened him to the point where the rest of the Pantheon were able to say, actually, do you know what? You're on our side. Back you come. So, yeah, I don't know. But again, all the scale thing, it's all very avatar-based. Like Argus, again, was an avatar. All the Pantheon avatars. And not really much explanation. Very spectacular, don't get me wrong. Spectacular. Very nice cinematic scenes there. But again, not really explaining a great deal. Also, I still want to know about Sargeras' sword that he stabs Azeroth with. Because that's not his sword. Or obviously it's his sword because he had it. But, you know, it's not his iconic sword. Which is supposed to be the other half of Agrimar's. Like, the whole thing always was that Agrimar wanted, you know, Sargeras' sword. So, you know, he wanted the other bit of it to make his sword whole. So, yeah, I don't know that either. So, what is that? Is it just because of the look of it? The look of Sargeras' sword wouldn't really suit going into Silithus, so they've used that instead. Don't know. But I think it's just one of those where you can't really think about it too clearly. It will be interesting to see. Is there even going to be a novel on it? Because the next novel to come out is going to be taking place immediately after the events on Argus. So is there even going to be a novel based on Argus events? Is that ever going to come in? Well, yeah, you can sort of say that about anyone. I mean, Agrimar looks like he conjures his sword at the start as well. You know, I mean, that's just Titans for you. You know, wizards. So that I'm okay with that. I've got a problem with that. It's just it was not his iconic sword. You know, he may well have a whole arsenal of swords. It's just interesting that he chose that one. And it's also, I don't get the purpose of it. Why did he do it? Because at the point at which he's been pulled back, like, remember, his main aim is not to kill world souls as such. It's to defeat the Void Gods, the Void Lords. And he can't, as soon as he's there defeated, that's it, it's all over. In fact, at that point, you would have thought, well, is it now better that we hope that Azeroth doesn't become corrupted? Because Azeroth would be the great hope. Because if he actually kills Azeroth at that point, then he increases massively the chance of the Void Lords winning. Because there'll be other world souls still out there, and it only takes one to be corrupted there. So yeah, that was all a bit strange. His actions there, I thought, were a little bit strange. And it's not that you couldn't come up with a story to explain them all. It's just that there wasn't. Are you the only one that feels like if Legion is truly not finished, then this and the entirety of WoD has been futile? I think a lot of people would consider WoD to have been futile because they didn't really finish it. I mean, obviously, we still don't know exactly what is to come. There's got to be some new content, whatever form that content is. Obviously, they still haven't, like, confirmed that there's going to be another, albeit smaller raid to come, so we still don't know for certain that. There's just, like, well, not even really hints. They just refuse to say there isn't. That's not really a hint. But the storyline-wise, there still has to be more to come. Now, whether that storyline is entirely fixated on building up to Battle for Azeroth, or whether it's still tidying off what's happened, you know, with the Legion invasion, I don't know. Battle for Azeroth, obviously the open part of the alpha stroke beta, whatever they decide to call it, will be coming out in the new year. At which point, you know, attention will be going on to that, won't it? Let's have a look. Will be uber cool if Azeroth Titan is actually fell based? No. I mean, it's the end. It's curtains for us if Azeroth ever awakens anyway. We're just, I don't know where they ultimately want to go with this story, unless, as I say, it would make a good end to World of Warcraft and then open up to another. But I don't really see that happening. Guessing now that Azeroth has already been corrupted, King of Diamonds has been made a pawn. She's corrupting and been leading Magni on. I don't know. I mean, yeah, King of Diamonds clearly has to be Magni, but made a pawn, not necessarily Azeroth. I don't think Azeroth's being corrupted. I mean, you know, poor lass isn't having a very good time of it, but I don't think she's being corrupted. I think the pawn element there would potentially have been, if anything, because he was also listening to Argus as well. So, but we don't know. I mean, some of the things they say in those Il'gynoth whispers could just be completely made up just to throw us off the scent. Pyromancer has law speculation about the sword. Okay, I don't think I've seen that yet. I mean, there's any well, I don't know. It could just be as simple as the art department thought it looked cool. You know, cool. If you're going to stick it in a continent, it's going to be there for some time, possibly forever. Might as well have a cool looking sword. You know, you can see it from like Ashenvale, can't you? Might as well look cool. I don't think the Titan type swords do look cool. They look more like those things you put pizzas in ovens with. He thinks Azeroth is being corrupted with old. Well, we know they're being corrupted with old gods. So who's the he? Sorry, do you mean Sargeras? The thing is that with Sargeras, the problem is that if like he's gone out of the picture, he knows he's been trapped now, so that's it gone. If the rest of the Pantheon are also in on that and they can't be available anyway, then even if he kills Azeroth is my issue, there's other world souls inevitably out there, and nothing is there to stop them being corrupted. Nothing. His best chance, because he knew that they were defenders of Azeroth. But, you know, we've defeated him. We've like turned him back loads of times. We're a pretty effective immune system for Azeroth. And, you know, Azeroth was even Sargeras' best chance at the point at which he can't go around the whole universe just killing world souls. When that plan is scuppered, plan B should have been, well, you know, not to basically harm Azeroth. We're back to Jaina being a Dreadlord. I don't think Jaina is a Dreadlord. Didn't Argus awaken and Argus is still there? I don't know what's happened to Argus. Really. Obviously what we fought can't be... Like everything we fought had to be an avatar of the various Titans. I don't know whether... because what we fought can't be the full Titan of Argus, it has to be an avatar. Because it's roughly the same size as the avatar of Sargeras as well. That sort of all makes sense. So I don't know whether it was a birthing or whether it was just enough consciousness... enough of an awakening to form a physical, you know, structure for us to actually fight. I don't know. Argus's aspect of death. Pantheon is mostly arcane. Well, Pantheon is, Titans are supposed to be of the arcane, yes. ANR's Titan aspects of life. Elune lightly Titan aspects of light. No. Elune is still very mysterious. It would be very surprising if Elune turned out to be a Titan, really, because it's not mentioned. Azeroth likely Titan aspect of Fel. No, I'm not sure. No, I mean, they could do anything, of course, but I don't think there's anything to suggest that is the way they're going with it. Especially as, again, you know, their pretty picture indicates that, you know, Titans are effectively all of the arcane. Even Sargeras should have been. Obviously, he control demons doesn't necessarily mean that he was a creature of Fel himself. But he may have been after time. I'd argue if the Pantheon could jail Sargeras, then they're still active. It sort of depends. If it's one of those where they have to jail him by trapping themselves in like a singularity or something weird, I don't know. Because again, what happened to Argus? That's the thing. It just went like that. And there's a little red star now. That's what we see, whatever it is, a red light in the sky where it was. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened there. So, and I don't know what, again, I don't know what Illidan's role is. He's described as being the jailer of Sargeras. Well, what does that mean? So, it doesn't necessarily mean the Pantheons are active. It doesn't mean they're not. Because apart from anything else, if the Titans were active, surely one of them would have gone over to Azeroth and looked at that sword and thought, it's probably not a great idea that that's stuck in there. You know, help out a little. I know they've had a bad experience of pulling things out of Azeroth, but a sword, I think, probably should have been pulled out. And, you know, done whatever they did before, you know, creating the Well of Eternity, but, you know, something else to patch up the wound. They haven't done that. They've left us. Sort of suggests to me, it's not proof, but it suggests to me that they're out of the picture. Never understood, why are we actually in Antorus to defeat Sargeras? Basically, we have to defeat the Legion. The Antorus is supposed to be one of those areas where you can finally kill demons, where you can actually just kill them. Now, what the actual plan is, I don't know, given that Sargeras, at the time we're going into it, isn't there. He's not about. But in the short term, we're there to prevent them destroying Azeroth. But again, there's all sorts of the storyline around Antorus that isn't really explained. Sometimes when they do this, it's not uncommon for them to just not explain things properly. But then usually there's a novel that gets brought out and that explains it. But there's a novel. The novel that's coming out is set after or immediately after the events on Argus. The next one to come out. So I don't know. What do I think is pouring out of the sword? Well, it's all related in terms of pouring out the sword. Okay, I know. But whatever it's doing seems to be coalescing with something in Azeroth, and that's what's going to make the Azerite, isn't it? That's the whole point of that. But again, what's pouring out of the sword in Silithis is all related to what was Sargeras doing. I don't think he was using that sword to try and kill Azeroth. That's the thing. Doesn't make sense. And also, it was a pretty feeble effort, even if it did make sense. So, it's supposed to be for something. Now, he's surely to goodness not trying to corrupt Azeroth, because he wants to avoid that. You know, he was killing world, or attempting, he only killed one world soul as far as I know. But he was attempting to do this simply to avoid them being corrupted. You know, has he found an antidote? Maybe it was a hypodermic needle. I found the antidote to void. Pff, there you go. Maybe that's what it is. Yes, I think so. I mean, I don't... Because, again, it's like, what was... Because I was thinking, my first question when I saw the cinematic was, oh, what's he doing in that cloud? Well, he's plucked away. You know, as people were saying, well, he's probably only just arrived. That's him coalescing. And as soon... Literally, as soon as he's coalesced, as soon as he's about to strike, that's when he's plucked back. And then he sort of thinks to himself, oh, I better do something here. The do something doesn't look like destroying Azeroth, because that doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe, I mean, wouldn't it be crazy if it was as simple as that's not a sword, it's like their equivalent of a needle with a, you know, with a vaccine in it or something crazy. But I don't know. It is a big ass needle. It's a big ass world soul. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, well, no, not necessarily. It's only in one little continent. I mean, you can only see it from, like, Ashen Vale. Oh, no. But whatever it is, well, I suppose actually it would be, yeah. Maybe the size of Ramish, roughly. But that's all I can think of at the moment, because it doesn't make any sense that he was lashing out at Azeroth. I know this is silly, but what do demons or bad guys do when they've conquered everything? Sit out and chill. Hard to imagine. Well, the thing with demons was always that they're malevolent, but not organised. You know, they're a bit like the Joker in The Dark Knight, aren't they? They're not supposed to have any aims or ambitions or anything. They're not trying to achieve anything. They just act according to their nature, and their nature is pretty destructive. And that's why Sargeras wanted to corrupt the Eridar, because they were strategists, and then the retcon stuff so that the same things happen with the Nathrezim as well. They're strategists, they're leaders, because demons on their own are just idiots. So he needed someone to be able to form and carry out plans. But, so yeah, when they've conquered a world, they don't really do anything. They just carry on doing what they do. Because it's almost like they're not even conquering worlds, demons, unless they're doing it according to some plan. You know, they're just doing their stuff, and if a world happens to get conquered by them doing their stuff, then that's fine. They just carry on doing their stuff. I'm not sure Horde would be the anti-vax, because apart from anything else, they were sent by the Legion to Azeroth. If anything, they're pathogens. Since when can a soul be injected with a fluid? I don't know. No idea. I'm not saying it is. It's just that's all I can think of. I can't really think of anything else that it could be. It's just a really crazy situation that, again, has not been explained. But, you know, with demons, I don't know what's going to happen with those now. They're just going to be aimless again. They'd still be there, because they're still going to be attracted by magic in the same way that they were before the being in Legion. So we'll still have them. We might even have some minor Legion, like not Legion, but demon-themed things going on. I mean, it was only half a year ago that I was refusing to believe that we're actually going to be finally defeating the Legion. I couldn't believe it. Hi, Lamnakin, how you doing? I refused to accept it. I thought, no, they're not going to do that. That'd be crazy. And then we have. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. So it all seemed a bit sudden to me, because, you know, they seem to be like the master to Doctor Who, don't they? It's just like the thing you cannot kill. You can defeat, but you can't kill them, because then what are you going to do? Plot twist. Sargeras is actually Xavius. Yeah, but Sargeras is against the Void, though. He's not likely to turn out to be a creature of the Void. And the sword corrupts Azeroth, and everything turns into nightmare in the end. I don't know. I mean, anything is possible. I mean, I don't refuse to accept anything these days, because as far as I can tell, the Warcraft Chronicles... Oh, thank you, Lamnakin. The Warcraft Chronicles was supposed to be like Blizzard going, do you know what? We keep changing the story. We know it's confusing. We've worked it out now. We've sorted it out. This is it. This is the story. And it almost seems like they didn't take very long at all to still change it still. Now, possibly you could come up with some explanations for it, but those explanations seem to be conspicuous by their absence. So I would be very interested to see what they do about this. But, you know, who knows? I mean, that's probably not even going to be in Warcraft Chronicles 3. That's probably like 5 or something by the time to get round to explaining this. I just wish they'd have done it with a book, with a novel at least. Because that's what they usually do, to explain, occasionally contradict, but at least to explain events that have happened in games. So you at least have some, you know, knowledge about it. It's like, oh, okay, that happened then. That's fine. I mean, there's quite a lot of very important lore that we didn't get in the game at all. So, but yeah, it's fine as long as it's somewhere where you can read about it and go, oh, okay, right, that's the thing then. But yeah, we've not had that at this point, and there doesn't seem to be any immediate plans to do it. Which again leads, because I have no confidence that Blizzard, when they're doing stories, really do think it through in detail. Because if they did, they wouldn't keep retconning stuff. So, I mean, any number of things could actually be true. You know, and I mean, Sargeras can come back. They don't, even death, even killing a villain in World of Warcraft doesn't stop them coming back. So Sargeras isn't even dead, he's just trapped. so they can wheel him out any time they like. Except I really don't think they would do that. I don't think that makes a lot of sense at all. I want to see what it is, because it seems strange to me that the Titans would be the only creatures in the universe of their sort of level of power. Because they're more powerful than old gods, really. Because they can physically kill them. Couldn't it be easy to run out of ideas until they repeated stuff? The level kept being so high, I think it's almost time to start a new game with a completely new storyline. Well, I have thought this before, that it would be... Like, I thought about a year ago, I was suggesting, I think, roughly then, that wouldn't it be interesting that if they did end World of Warcraft and they ended it by Azeroth waking up, so we had to transport ourselves to another world and then we could start a new game there. The only thing that doesn't really work for it... Well, Void Lords are much more powerful than Titans, though. They're much more powerful, as far as we can tell. You know, I'm thinking of things like that could have a battle with Titans. I get the impression Void Lords would squish them. And potentially Void Lords don't necessarily even exist in the universe in a real sense, because remember this thing about you can't... I don't know, it's weird, because it keeps saying like you can't have Void without the light. That they've both got to be present throughout the universe. Although you have Naru, which are creatures of the light, and you have old gods, which are creatures of the void. So I don't know. And then when you have your Void Lord, you talk about your Void Lords, well, what is there for the light as well? What is the overall intelligence for the light? I don't know. But yeah, so what was I saying? Sorry. Oh yeah, the new game. So yeah, the problem is it wouldn't make a lot of sense for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you're going to choose to leave Azeroth and go, like you could do, because the Draenei have already done it several times, you know, why can't the rest of us? It wouldn't make any sense for the Alliance and the Horde to land on the same planet, because what's the point of landing on the same planet and then just fighting again when there's other ones you could have gone to? Unless we have to go to Draenor, not Outland, but you know, alternate Draenor, and maybe that could be a lead into there. But the other thing, the way I think it's tricky, is I just struggle to work out how, even if they wanted to make a new World of Warcraft MMO, which I'm not sure they do, but if they did, how they would do it, because as soon as at some point you have to announce that it's a thing. You can do a lot of development in secret, but at some point, long before it's ready, you've got to announce it. You can't not. So at that point, people are going to then... They're going to just suddenly lose a load of revenue from World of Warcraft, because people will think, oh, well, there's no point in playing this then. It's not going to be supported for much longer. Even if they are quite happy to keep the servers open for ages. And you're not getting any revenue from the new game either. And then the way I've rationalised it in the past is by saying, let's say I was someone at Blizzard who had a really good idea for World of Warcraft 2. And I go to them, to the people who have to make the decision, who are ultimately the people who need to make the money. And they're in charge of the money. And I say to them, look, I want a couple $100 million, or whatever it's going to cost, and 4 years of development time, or 5 years, whatever it's going to be, to make this really good new MMO. To which they say, okay, is it going to make more money than World of Warcraft makes? No, how could it? You know, it can't. Because MMOs themselves are never going to get to the heights that WoW got to, or even gets to now, without difficulty. So then you say, okay, well, you're asking me for $200 million and 5 years to make something that's not even going to make as much money as what we've already got. I'm not sure how that would go. Hi, little mate. Anyway, let's have a quick look what we've got to. They've changed WoW so much that I actually wouldn't mind them starting an entirely new game with a new engine, storyline, etc. Maybe a WoW prequel. Ooh, WoW prequel. That wouldn't be impossible. Again, I think it would struggle from the same problem in terms of attracting like funding for it, but maybe, I don't know. Prequel. What, War of the Ancients, or even before that or after that? I would tend to think I'd want it much further in the future, away from Azeroth personally. Because the problem is as well, when you do prequels, you're limited in your storyline. Because there's things you know are going to happen in the future. So I think it limits you a bit. Whereas if you do it in the future, if you do it after the events, then you're much freer with what you can do story-wise. They would have to have a completely new team. Oh, absolutely. It would absolutely have to have a completely new team. And it would be an absolutely massive project, and they wouldn't get any money for it for years. That's the thing. It takes a long time. It doesn't matter if they change law and stuff for me. I'm all for it. And of course, they need to change and add things to the game. It's one of the things that makes it good. I'm all for adding things to the game. I don't agree that they have to change things. I mean, if they absolutely had to change it to make a good story, I would go okay. But to my mind, they haven't had to do that. They've just chosen to do it. Guild Wars 2 outdid the first one. Yeah, well, this is the thing. I've not really been a Guild Wars or Guild Wars 2 player, so I don't know. Hi, Cliffado. I don't know how it sort of synced up. I mean, did Guild Wars 2, was that being developed whilst Guild Wars 1 was still going? Was Guild Wars 1 already sort of declining and it made sense to do it? I've no knowledge at all about how the Guild Wars thing happened. Because there have been, obviously, some MMOs where they've brought out like a version 2. A sequel, so to speak. There have been a few, so it's obviously possible under certain circumstances. I'm just not sure. I could be wrong, but I'm not sure what circumstances would do that. The BFA story seems good so far. We don't really know a lot about the story. The story apparently is, Sylvanas megalomaniac. I'm not sure that we know too much. And someone's going to set fire to a tree. I think we're a bit limited in what we actually know. We will find out quite soon, though, because, in a few weeks' time, the alpha stroke beta, or whatever it happens to be, is going to go out public, no NDAs, and people are going to be able to report on that. Hopefully me. But at least people are going to be able to do that. Sadly, we don't have the numbers to even see how much WoW is declining. Well, we concern ourselves with numbers. But again, when it comes to money, the people who would decide these things, they don't really care about the number of players playing as such. They care about how much money it's making. We can they do still report on how well it's doing financially. They just don't report on subscriber numbers anymore. I mean, they have to report on the finances of it because shareholders have to know these things. But shareholders, which could be you or I, we could be shareholders if we wanted to buy some shares. But they don't have to report on specific numbers of players and stuff like that. BFA stories, there's an arsonist on the loose who needs to be caught. Well, I don't think it'll be much of a secret when it happens. I mean, we might not know who's doing it now. But I'm pretty sure we'll find out. I don't think it'll be a surprise. Oh. Has it been confirmed who sets the fire in BFA? Not that I know of. You feel like it may be old gods. It could be anything. It could be absolutely... It might not even be Sylvanas' idea to do it. Because, as I say, in that prequel... The preview, I should say, of the book that they gave out at BlizzCon, she was talking about attacking Stormwind. Now, that could have been a prelude to it. It might have been Sylvanas' idea to set fire to the tree. It would seem a strange thing to do, though, because she doesn't have any particular hatred for the Night Elf. She might even still view herself as an elf at heart, really, as well. Why would she want to do that? But I don't know. Hi, Karu. Welcome to your first one. So let's have a look. Feel the WoW engine is dangerously outdated. It is very outdated. Dangerously might be going a bit far. I mean, they haven't even updated the original horse animations or the player positioning. Another example of outdated engine is the fact that when riding certain mounts, like the geosynchronous world spinner, the player is shown holding a steering wheel, even though there's no steering wheel on the mount. I've not used that, so I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of things that it would be nice if it could be updated, but you know. Again, what we sort of hope... See, I worry that the next Warcraft-based game might not even be an MMO. Because I quite like my MMOs. Still excited for BFA? I am excited for BFA. You know, my love of World of Warcraft has not diminished, so I am looking forward to the next expansion. I am looking forward to improvements to the... Like, I would be looking forward to them improving the things that I've not liked about Legion. And maybe they will do that, and maybe they won't. I mean, they've made some improvements to the overall experience. You know, one of the big technical things in Legion, of course, was that we got triple the view distance, which was very noticeable as soon as you got in, because, you know, Dalaran floating over the Broken Isles, you just instantly knew you wouldn't normally be able to see that far out, but you could see the Broken Isles really well. So that was pretty good. I hope the next Warcraft is an MMO as well. I just concern myself with it being difficult to convince people to do new MMOs in general, because it's like sometimes, because people say they're in decline, I think they are in decline as well. Because you could look at it as, well, if there's not as many players playing particular MMOs, maybe there's just too many MMOs. But I think it was Lazy Peon who did a video about this a while ago, who noted when you looked at searches in Google for MMO and MMORPG, they've massively declined over the last, like, 10 years. There's been a decline. So that would be a decent indicator that interest in them has also subsided. But so yeah, I would hope that as well. It's just and they are still being made. You know, we've had, I mean, ESO was a big budget one, and that was only a few years ago. So it is possible. A lot of gamers now are spoiled and won't dedicate time to MMOs. Ah, well, yeah, the ever-changing nature of an MMO is something. Like, there's probably been 3 distinct phases in MMOs. There was the first phase, which I didn't participate in. What people would call ultra-hardcore style. Like, you know, your Star Wars Galaxies type stuff. That I didn't participate in at all. Then you had World of Warcraft come along. World of Warcraft, much more accessible, much more forgiving, but still by today's standards, there was a lot of grind you had to do. There was there were consequences for things. You had to take it a little bit seriously if you wanted to get anywhere and do any sort of the varied content in it. You know, there was some content you were completely shut out of if you weren't prepared to put some time and effort in. And then I think over time, absolutely, people have got more into the wanting and expecting, in fact, content to be more casual friendly, which is why we now have the different difficulties of raids. We have different difficulties of dungeons. All of the content is accessible at some level. But at the same time, to be fair, you've also got, for the more serious players, they've got content as well. Because like Battlegrounds were always just a random sign-up thing. Now we have rated Battlegrounds. We have arenas from TBC onwards. So I think, you know, they also put stuff in for the more serious players as well. It's just that where there is common content, it has to be more straightforward. Like now, for example, you wouldn't even think about dying when you were leveling up. You know, even if you didn't have heirlooms, you wouldn't really... I mean, okay, there's the Iron Man challenge, I suppose. Might add something to it. But if you're just playing normally, you're not likely to have to die while leveling up. Unless someone ganks you and you're on a PvP server. In which case you'll die quite a lot. Strange though, RPGs I think will always be massive in some form. RPGs have been huge since like the 70s or whatever. In some form or other, and I think they still will be. I don't think there's going to be a massive decline in role-playing games in general. It's just whether they're... But it's a weird one, because MMOs seem to be in decline. I don't think RPGs are. And yet, companies, they certainly don't want to make single-player ones anymore, do they? Wasn't that an issue? Again, someone will have to correct me if I'm wrong here. Wasn't that an issue with the new Star Wars Battlefront game? That if you look at it, it's sort of basically a single-player game, but they don't want it to be. They want it to be an online game. It was sort of, I don't know whether anything was changed at some point. And some games, you could sort of look at it. Like, I mean, I've been starting again Star Wars The Old Republic recently. Fantastic. I'm playing it as a single-player game, basically. There's almost no interaction with other players. I hardly even see another player out while I'm leveling. It's probably much like WoW in that regard. And you know, you forget that it's an online game. It could easily be a single-player game. Apart from when you occasionally go onto the Galactic Trade Center, like auction house. But it's not. You know, it's like they don't... I don't know. They want... I suppose they want you to be a multiplayer game, so they have the excuse to make you play on online servers. Because otherwise, if it's an actual single-player game, the question can be asked, why do I have to play it on your servers? Why can't I just download the game and play it on my computer? And they don't want you to do that. Witcher 3, yeah, I had some students who played Witcher 3. I've not played it myself. It's one of those things... It doesn't matter how good it is, I already have several games that I don't have enough time to play. I really don't need... In fact, it would be terrible if I was to get it and find that I enjoyed it. Because then that would just be another game that I haven't got time to play. But they do seem rarer. What do I think of ESO? I absolutely love ESO. Like, I wish I had more time to play it. You know, I wish I had time to play all the World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls Online, Star Wars The Old Republic, Lord of the Rings Online that I would like to do, as well as do all the other stuff I would like to do. But even if I won the lottery and could do what I liked, I still don't think there would be enough time in the week for me to do all those things. Really annoying. But yeah, I think ESO is fantastic. Even though, again, with that one, I'm just playing it casually when I'm on at the moment, because I haven't, you know, I haven't done any like group stuff since the game first came out. You do think Blizzard will do an MMO again? Well, yes, they may do an MMO again, but what? If they did, because you've got to think to yourself, where's StarCraft going? Where are they going with that? That's a super popular franchise that at the moment isn't really going anywhere as far as I can tell. It's all right making a version of it free to play. You know, the actual franchise isn't moving forward at the moment. Diablo isn't moving forward. They've got several franchises that are quite popular, and they're not really moving anywhere. World of Warcraft is. Obviously, the newer ones, Hearthstone and Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm, okay, new stuff's coming out there. But, you know, StarCraft and Diablo aren't really going anywhere. What if... Now, if they did an MMO based on StarCraft, I'm not going to play that, because I have this weird thing, and I cannot explain it. I don't like playing sci-fi games. Don't like it. And I don't know why. I enjoy reading sci-fi books occasionally, although I much prefer fantasy. I like watching some sci-fi films, again, prefer fantasy. But I don't like playing sci-fi games. You could literally bring out a game with exactly the same features, exactly the same. One of them is a fantasy game, though. One of them is a sci-fi game, but they're exactly the same, and I won't enjoy the sci-fi game. And I don't know why that is. The dialogue, though, so say I would probably love Witcher 3 because the dialogue is very like Star Wars The Old Republic. It's the dialogue in Star Wars The Old Republic that was the big turn-off for me. That's the bit I don't like. It's sort of grown on me a little bit, but I still don't like it. It's what stopped me playing it when it came out. I advanced ordered it, I got into the beta, played it on the beta, and I thought, I don't like this, it's slowing me down. You know, I was going for extended periods of time without twatting anything with my lightsaber. So... which I didn't like very much at all. I wanted to hit things with a lightsaber. That's why I wanted to play that game. In fact, I was very surprised at something, because on on both factions, you've got like 4 main classes. Each one splits into 2, but it's 4 main classes. And 2 of them are lightsaber using classes, and 2 of them are gun using classes, for want of a better word. And I really didn't think I would like playing the classes that use the guns, because that seemed too sci-fi to me. I thought, no, I want the swords. But actually I do. I think all the classes are actually well designed. I enjoy playing all of them, which surprised. I'm not saying I would enjoy every single individual spec, but I enjoy playing all of the individual classes. So that surprised me. think they have to bring something new to the table with MMO. I absolutely agree with that, because one thing you notice, any MMO that ever gets any decent support when it comes out has to, absolutely has to, bill itself as having something new, something that no one else has done. Because if all you're going to do is drag out the same tired old shit, then you might as well play the game that's already established that has the same stuff. And the same would apply, indeed, with another Blizzard MMO. They would have to have some genuinely innovative new features. You know, because all of the MMOs that have been successful have had something about them that didn't exist before it. They weren't just... Like, people will often just go, oh, it's just a copy of this, it's a copy of that. They were in some ways, maybe, and in some ways they were not. They all had something different. Otherwise, people wouldn't have played them. Because the problem with an MMO is it's the ultimate RPG. It's an RPG where you can be building up a character over many years. People are not going to give that up because of to play another game. Because that's the problem. Like, you know, I play World of Warcraft predominantly for the end game. I like the raiding. I can't put my hand on my heart and say that it's better than any other MMO. For all I know, if I really got into ESO and spent as much time in ESO as I do in WoW, maybe I'd prefer that. But I daren't do it because I know I like WoW. I don't know I would like playing ESO in the same level of seriousness. But in order to find out, I'd have to play ESO a lot for a couple of months at least, probably several months, maybe even longer, before I could actually try everything out, give it a decent chance and find out. And to do that, I would have to give up playing WoW, or at least give up playing it seriously. And if I then do that in ESO and find out I don't like it, well, I've shot my load. I've got to try and ease my way back into World of Warcraft, and that can take some time as well. So, yeah, there's a huge amount of pull keeping you in an MMO that you've been playing for some time. So you stopped playing Star Wars: The Old Republic due to the end content wasn't really there. Yes, I've heard that as well. Warcraft does have really good end game. I agree with that. But I can't say that some of the MMOs don't, because I can't, without experiencing it, I can't be sure. I can sort of, you know, if enough other people are saying that it doesn't really, I can sort of go, okay, well, I can believe that then. Guys, just love the idea of building up and enhancing your character. Something about the sense of progress and accomplishment keeps you coming back. Well, I think that's it with most people, which is why, and Blizzard don't get this, we don't like the fact that the transmog system is so restrictive. It's better than nothing, and it's improved, but it's still quite restrictive. And also, don't like the idea that there's no player housing, because player housing is an extension of your character. Blizzard seem to think that the problem with player housing will be that everyone will spend all the time in their house. Well, in games that do it properly, you don't. There's no reason to spend all your time in. The way they went wrong with the garrisons, which was not player housing, is they put useful things in it. They thought, oh, we'll need things to do in it. No, we don't. We just want to make it look pretty. It's cosmetic. We just want to make it look pretty, do videos or post pictures of it, put it on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, invite people around to see how pretty it is. That's all we want to do with it. People who want player housing don't want to live in the house. It's just something that you can again, it's creative, isn't it? It's something you can create that's unique to you. Free Realms, I've not heard of that, but I've seen some. I mean, even though the Elder Scrolls Online player housing is a little bit weird, I've seen some amazingly creative interiors of them that people have done in. Final Fantasy was quite good, was it? I mean, I imagine, I can hardly imagine a decent MMO that wouldn't have it. And I really don't know what Blizzard's stubbornness on it is. I don't get it. I really don't. They've never given any satisfactory response to that. Yeah, ESO got housing around about the start of 2017, sort of January, February time. I have several houses. All bought, of course, on the online store in my case, because I don't play it enough to acquire any sort of currency. And I haven't spent a lot of time customizing them either, but I have seen some. In fact, there's a guy on YouTube who It looked like he might actually grow a decent sized channel, but he sort of stalled a little bit. An Australian who plays ESO, and I've forgotten his name. Let me try and look him up again. I think it's Freetality, but I could be getting him mixed up with someone else. And he did a little series. He may still do them now and then, where other people let him go round his stuff, their houses. And that's what, as I say, I've seen some really good ones on it. Yeah, he doesn't get that many views. But he posts content like reasonably, well, it's not massively regular. But yeah, he did some good ones. He showed some good ones. And, you know, you can tell some people have put a lot of time into... I mean, that's another thing. Blizzard want us to spend a lot of time in the game. It's set up for you with player housing because it takes you a lot of time to acquire the items for it. Some of the items for your house you're getting off vendors. Some of them you can only get at certain times. Some of them are crafted, you know, special events, that sort of thing. You can spend a lot of time acquiring these things. And then actually placing them, you know, can take a long time as well. Remember when people were excited about garrisons, then we found out it was just cookie cutter templates? Well, yeah, well, because what people want is player housing. And then we got a thing that sounded like it could be, because it sounded like the same technology that would be needed for player housing. So we thought, oh. And then it wasn't. And it was just, it was like our choice was, oh, we could have this building or this building, or we could move that building from there to there. Which, if you were Horde, by the way, was totally pointless. I did the alpha and beta, well, no, it's just beta, sorry, of Warlords of Draenor, and then obviously played Warlords of Draenor as Alliance. You know, I was pretty miffed at the lack of customization as Alliance. When I changed to Horde, I switched over to Horde at the end of Hellfire Citadel, it was even worse. It was terrible because I didn't even know where my buildings were. I could look out of my main building and all I saw was huts. I didn't know which was which unless I looked carefully. It was just huts on top of a snowball. That's all it was. It was the dullest thing. It was even worse than the Alliance experience. Because at least with the Alliance buildings, they looked different. From afar, you could tell what was what. There was some variety there. There was nothing. It was just huts. Huts with skins thrown on top of them. Star Wars Galaxy player. Yeah, I knew someone. I worked with someone a few years ago that was very much into Star Wars Galaxy. He used to talk about it in very excited tones. At the same time, though, some of the things he told me, I'm not sure I would have necessarily enjoyed it that much. In terms of because couldn't they in that one? I'm mixing this up. Couldn't people basically just nick stuff from you? Or something like that, or damage your homes or houses or whatever. Any sort of game with like non-consensual PvP in it, I don't really keen on. I mean, that's what stopped me playing Black Desert Online, because I quite like playing Black Desert Online, or I did do. But the problem is that above a certain level, like 40, 45, something like that, then at that point, you know, you can have people gank you, and it's like, and I was getting close to it, and I thought, no, I don't really fancy that. So I just basically stopped. So there was no point in getting to that point and then getting endlessly frustrated by people beating me up all the time. Let's see if I can find something. Let me put this here. Let's read comments. Upkeep on your house. Yeah, I mean, Lord of the Rings Online has that as well. Which means that when I haven't played it for a while, like if I went back now, I'd suddenly found I didn't have my house anymore. I'd have to pay the maintenance to get it back. And if you leave it long enough, then you've lost it completely. Your stuff's still in escrow, but, you know. They could take your stuff if you game then admin for your home. Or gave them admin. Oh, right. They couldn't just attack it then. I might be thinking of something else. Let me see. What am I looking for? I think it's probably on this one. No, not that one. Trying to find a picture, but I might not. It might not be here. Oh no, no, bugger. But either way, I mean, they seem pretty... You know, when Blizzard dig their heels in... Oh, here it is. Where is this? Bugger. Properties. See if I can find it. Oh, here we go. So this is it's quite a dark one, but there was because this is another thing you can do with it. There's a little throne that I was able to put in my ESO house, and this was just something you can't get anymore. You could get it for literally a weekend. Like you could just go to a vendor. You have to log in that weekend. Go to a vendor. You could buy as many of those as you wanted. I got a couple for nothing. So that's the sort of thing you can do as well. Again, if Blizzard's main aim is to keep us in the game, keep us subscribed, just have these special events where, you know, you have... I mean, they've sort of tried it a little bit, haven't they, with the special little mini events, the mini holidays as they call it. But I think there'd be a lot more interest. I'm not saying for everyone. Obviously, it's not for everyone, you know, customizing your house. But for the people that there are, and what does it cost, really? It's not that much. You just design a few nice pieces of art, and then every couple of weekends you have or whatever weeks you have a special event where you can just do something to get it. It might even be as simple as go to a vendor. You don't have to even design content for it, but you can only get it then, and you will never be able to get it again. I think Blizzard could use some of the technology they possess to create essentially a mini Minecraft engine that allowed players to select a certain material, then place a slab or building block. So actually build the building themselves as well as customize what's inside it. You can do... what is it? What's come out recently? God, what's it called? Conan something. Conan Exiles or something? Is it like that in that? I think you can make buildings like that. But with that one, that is a PvP game, so you can also break people's houses. And you can actually spend time breaking into people's houses and nicking their stuff. But I think there's a few MMOs... or like that have tried that system, haven't they? Where you actually just build the building yourself. I mean, that would be going a long way along. I mean, you'd first of all just have to get Blizzard to agree to player housing, which they don't seem to want to do. And I suppose, yeah, it would be nice ultimately to have, you can have templates for homes, but then to be able to just design your own within a certain space. Well, yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, maybe players could earn new interesting items. For example, once you kill Argus on Heroic, you unlock the Burning Throne. That's exactly the sort of thing you would do with player housing. You know, trophies of content. You know, that's what exists basically in every game that has player housing, which is basically every game apart from WoW, or at least MMO, it seems to me. But I've seen a number of games where you have the capacity to build your own things, although I don't know that any of them have been big title MMOs. But I'm pretty sure it was Conan Exiles that I think I was watching Heels vs. Az from Heels vs. Babyface streaming that. Or as he was called, Midlife Bar Crisis at the time, before he got back into WoW. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I watched some streams of him playing that, and it had like buildings. You could build up these buildings. And mostly what I watched was him breaking into other people's. Although it looked a bit dull, the actual game itself. Didn't we kind of have that in Worlds with the statues? Yeah, there was the Gul'dan versus Khadgar statue. That's the sort of thing that just shows you but people weren't that interested in that because for a couple of reasons. First of all, you know, you couldn't put it where you wanted. Second of all, there were certain slots and you could only you could have loads of them, but you could only like have one in each slot. So it was a bit crap. Whereas when I go in Lord of the Rings Online, I go past some people's houses and their garden is strewn. Their if they've got a kin house, if they've got a normal garden, you've only got so many places, which is again a problem. ESO, you can put stuff where you want. In fact, that throne I had, I put another one. I have this like tropical island as one of my other homes, and I put one on the beach just because I can. You can put stuff wherever you want. But yeah, Lord of the Rings Online, it's much more limited, but you can still go past some places and it'd be strewn with trophies from old content that they've completed. Here's a very sketchy YouTuber. He creates class guides for every... Does he create class guides for every class? I've never really seen him do that. You're not thinking about Preach there. Let's have a look. I don't think I've seen him attempt to do class guides as such, has he? Have I missed them? I think he's just more of a... I think when he does guides, isn't it mostly just how to get to places that you're not supposed to get to and stuff like that? I don't know. No, I'm not sure he does. Which is just as well, because it can be quite fun to watch, but he doesn't know a lot about playing the game. Like, obviously he knows how to get into places and stuff like that. I think Az is just like a casual player. I think it's largely entertainment. But where he does do guides, it tends to be finding things, finding little places that you're not supposed to get to and stuff like that. Or at least doing videos on them. I'm not sure that he's found all of them himself. I mean, he may have found some of them. And obviously he does quite a few videos, or used to anyway, on upcoming content. I mean, that's the sort of stuff I would like to do more of, but again, it's time. It's like, well, a certain amount of time to spend. Can you afford to spend it on the PTR? Is Lotro actually good? Ah, right. Okay. Yes and no. The quality of the game, which I didn't think were... Like, if it wasn't Lord of the Rings, I would think it was crap, if I'm honest. It's really good for a Lord of the Rings fan, I think. If you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, and I mean a Lord of the Rings fan, like the books, not the films, I don't think it'd be that good. That's an annoying thing, actually. Do you know what? That annoys the hell out of me. Because, if I look at my channel thingy... but yeah, the thing is, yeah, I didn't think it was all that brilliant when it first came out in terms of the overall quality of it. It's dated very badly since. It hasn't had very much. It's had some updates, not very much. And it's now the original company that did it sold it to basically the people who actually designed it. So it's now basically an independent studio, a small independent studio. Whether they've got the business acumen to be able to keep it going for a long time, I don't know. I hope they do. Because again, I quite like pottering back and going back into it. I'm trying to find... What am I looking for? Oh, dear. Yeah. JRC, yeah, I know. Hi, I'm Thete. Right, let's shut that up. Let's see. Should I try and get a screenshot of this? Let's see if this works. Because Earth and View's been a bit funny for me recently. Right, seems to work. God, media file. There we go. So this on my channel is like my most popular ones at the moment. And the one at the top of the tree is a Lord of the Rings Online. When I started playing it again before the start of the summer, I just did a video for the hell of it. And it's ended up being my most watched video. And the problem with it is, like, it started off all the way, you know, where's my pointer? All the way along here, and it's... Hang on a minute. Damn fool. Put that down there. It needs to be below the level of my Ashbringer. Oh, my God. I've done a thing now. I've done something stupid, I think. Doesn't matter. Okay. And it's just kept getting more and more views. It keeps going and going and going. It trickles, but it's just slowly crept up. It's now the most watched one. And it's still, people keep just watching it, and I don't know why. Is Irma smoking Ashbringer? Yeah, she looks like it, doesn't she? Let's put that down there. Very bad for you smoking Ashbringers. So, in actual fact, that Ashbringer needs to be... I've got everything in the wrong order now. Right, okay, it should actually work as a pointer now. There we go. So I just saw it kept creeping up along to there. And it's still, it'll be, if I'm not very careful, it'll take a long time to happen because it doesn't get many views, but it still keeps trickling along. It'll be the first video I get to 100,000 views, which will be tragic. Absolutely tragic. The demonetization, I don't get people when they moan about that because, I mean, all right, I had one demonetized quite recently, and last week I had several. And it took several days for them to sort it out. The content that, oh yeah, 8 months since 7.2, that's right. The content that he does, like if you're doing a guide, you can easily do it in enough time. Like all you need, the demonetization issue is not a problem for any significantly sized YouTuber that doesn't need to bring it out immediately. If you can afford to leave, if you can do it a week in advance, you will not get anything demonetized. Because all you actually have to do is you upload the video but unlisted. You don't have it ready to go public. Give it a day. All right. If the algorithm doesn't like it, it's probably going to not like it within a day or two. So give it a day or two. If it gets flagged as demonetized, then you put your request to have a manual review in. For a lot of people, there's a message saying it won't do it until it's got at least 1,000 views, which obviously it won't do if it's unlisted. But here's where you can be cunning, because as a significantly sized YouTuber, that doesn't apply. So you can get it manually reviewed. They'll manually review it, say it's fine. Another couple of days to do that. 4 days later, you can upload it, no demonetization. It's not a problem. I don't know why all these big YouTubers are having such a fuss about it. Unless their content, unless it's going to fail the manual review. But I don't see how a gaming guide is going to do that. None of my videos have, not that many have needed to be reviewed, and the ones that have, not one of them has failed it. Now, it's problematic in my case, because I get all of my views, such as they are, within the first day or two. So if it gets demonetized, it's screwing me over completely. It doesn't matter that it comes back clean after a day or two. I'm already buggered. But in a situation like that, as I say, where if you can afford to leave it a week, and you do, you can deal with it there and then. Well, then he needs to sort of, which can be a bit sweary. Yes, he can. Well, that's on him then to not do that. He doesn't need to be sweary. I mean, the odd one you can get through anyway. The odd one's not a problem. But, you know, I mean, that's just down to him to not. I've completely lost where this file is now. Evening, Man of War. Right, let me sort this out. What have I done here? That needs to go. So sorry if I missed something. You think the view thing applies to big YouTubers as well? I get most of the traffic in the first few days. Yeah, they get most of it, but what I'm saying is that they will still get a significant, like, it's the way the pattern is for me is not the way it used to be. It's just the way it is now. I get all my views in like 2 days and then it goes to nothing. It's like a decay curve. Whereas larger YouTubers, that's not the case. When I see, like, I mean, what were, you know, various ones I look at, Asmongold, Taliesin and Evertal, Preach himself, blah blah blah. They do continue to get plenty of views throughout the week. I can't show you any graphs at the moment of my stuff, but you know, the profile of it has changed significantly. All right, I'm going to get rid of that now. Oh no, don't do that, you fool. There we go, gone. So, but the other thing, as I say, from a big YouTuber's point of view, if they're full-time especially, I know there's some videos, obviously if it's a breaking news video, you know, you're buggered. But if it's a video you can afford to bring out a few days later, then you can guarantee that it won't be demonetized, as long as it does actually meet the requirements. Because like I say, you can just upload it unlisted, wait a day or two to see what the algorithm makes of it. If it doesn't like it, then you can, I mean, I've done that before. I've done it. If it doesn't like it, then you put in your manual review. Sometimes it happens within a day. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days. A couple of days, say, for that. 4 days later, it's come back clean. You can now make it public. Problem solved. No problem. Well, I was attempting to be regular, actually, Jimmy O, but it kept going wrong. The problem with me is that I have work which is not like, it's not a set 9 to 5 job where I go in, do my stuff and come home. There are certain times of the year when it's extra work, when there's a lot more work to do, and there's other times of the year when there's not at all. And inevitably, what has to fall by the wayside is whatever I'm doing at the moment on the channel. So, you know, if I was full-time, it'd be a different matter, because then this would be my job. But with the actual job, yeah, it's... move it. Well, Amonthal can smoke it for a bit. It's his pipe. Can have a Gandalf pipe shaped like an Ashbringer. But yeah, so you know, I was trying to do that. I was trying to bring certain things out at certain times and get ahead of the game so that I could schedule them for release at certain times. It worked for about 2 weeks. And I could probably do it again these next 2 weeks. But part of me is thinking, well, that's fine. The problem with that is when I go back to work, it will stop again. Because if it just, you know, if it's a week where everything's going fine and all the students are doing what they're supposed to be doing, that's not a problem. But if it's an awkward week where there's extra stuff to do, like, for example, I'm going to be doing a couple of interview evenings in January, where, you know, prospective students for next year are coming in. I'm going to interview them. That's going to take time out of my week as well. That's all sort of extra stuff. That's going to have a knock-on effect. I suppose the best time for expansions to be released for you would be summer. It absolutely would be summer. I mean, for me as a raider, it's definitely summer. Actually, as a YouTuber, technically, when it came out for Legion, was a pretty good time as a YouTuber. Because what it meant is over the summer period when the game wasn't coming out, but I'd been in alpha a while and been in beta, I was able to do some videos, like guide videos on it. So it gave me the time to do that. So it's like swings and roundabouts, really. The age group I teach is 16 to 19. But they never do release it in summer. They never release it during any holiday ever. Like I have 25% of the year off. Right? I'm not putting my feet up, but you know, I'm at home. So if an expansion or even a tier were to come out at that time, I wouldn't have a problem. But they never do. They never do that. They always bring it out in the middle of term time. And I suppose they always will, because there will be certain reasons, I suppose, why. I mean, You can understand why they don't obviously bring it out at Christmas. That would be silly. I can understand why they don't bring it out at summer. I can understand why they wouldn't bring it out at Easter. But I don't understand why they don't occasionally bring one out and it just happens to sit in the 1 week I get off in the middle of a term. Like, there's a 1 week I get off that can sometimes be at the end of October, early November. That's the sort of time of year when expansions have come out. But they've never actually hit that 1 week off. They've never landed at the same time. Because if they did, then I could just be like those no-lifers who sleep during the day, stay up all night when it comes, as soon as it launches, and level all the way through the night and get ahead of the curve. Teenagers are fine. Well, later teenagers are better. Mostly it's the lazy. It's only the lazy ones I mind. Like I was saying to a teacher yesterday, it was their last day today, but we've still got to go in tomorrow. But the students had their last day today, so I was doing my Christmas quizzes, and then there was a teacher saying, "Oh, yesterday, no, yes, it was yesterday." They were saying, "Oh, last day tomorrow," and I was saying, "No, we're still in for another day." And he said, yeah, but it's the last day with the students," and I said, "I prefer it when the students are in." I said, "It actually annoys me. It's the students that aren't in that annoy me, not the ones who are." But tomorrow is what will annoy me, because what I have to do tomorrow is I have to throw away a load of old coursework. So I've got a load of bin bags to throw off so that can go off to the recycling. And I've got to have a meeting, which is going to involve me being given more work to do. And quite tricky work as well. And that's it. That's me. And hiding from the Christmas dinner. They're having a staff Christmas dinner, and I need to hide from it. And just basically stay in my lab, throwing old coursework away. Whereas it was much more interesting today when I had classes. But there you go. Should we get back onto back onto World of Warcraft? Oh dear. We're not going to get any real big news now, are we, as well? Like, I occasionally keep looking on our MMO Champion. There's not going to be anything. Christmas now for Blizzard as well. Surprised that the guild's taking Argus down. Would have thought Limit would be third. Well, Memento, yeah. I mean, I don't know anything about Memento apart from the finish. I'm guessing, although I have no idea, it wouldn't surprise me if there were some former members of Paragon in it. I don't know if anyone here knows. Because I don't know anything. I mean, they are just a Finnish guild, and that was the problem that Paragon always had. They were an extremely impressive unit, but ultimately the reason why they were so impressive is because they managed to do what they did, whilst recruiting from an extremely limited pool. They could only recruit from Finnish-speaking people, and you don't really get people who speak Finnish outside of Finland. It's very rare. So they were basically, only recruiting Finns. And it's not the largest country. Yes, Memento, absolutely. Brilliant trinket. I've got a 960. And then, of course, there was the Chinese guild. The first guild, I suppose, to kill it while streaming. I guess. Public streaming. How did Alpha do Fellhounds first? Did they? There's all sorts of weird things. You see, someone in the Paladin Discord was pointing out some really weird Ret Paladin logs that didn't look at all right. The very funny bunnies, the Chinese. Let me have a look. Hold on. I haven't seen... The only one I've seen, the only kill I've seen is Methods. Let us see here. I don't know. Oh, well, if you look on WoW Progress, all of the dates sort of have the approximately symbol on them. I don't think they would have done the dogs before Garothi Worldbreaker. Yeah, but the Chinese Rets do seem to be insane, but there also seems to be funny shenanigans going on. Like, someone was pointing out some logs where they were using Crusade, which is our main DPS cooldown, more frequently than you can actually use it. And they weren't equipped with Dufra, the name of which I've completely forgotten, that you got from Nighthold. Gordon, Benny, what's that trinket called? Forgotten now. The trinket that warriors sort of liked. And my brain's gone blank. But yeah, all I'm saying on WoW Progress is it's just, it like says Garothy Willbreaker about 11 days ago. You know, the first 5 bosses about 11 days ago. Convergence of Fates, thank you very much. Yeah, that's it. Doofer indeed. Where is it? No, not there. Oh, there it is. Okay. I mean, I got one, like, Convergence of Fates, I couldn't get on. I had alts that would get it on, like, normal or Alpha or something, and I could never get it on my main. And I kept joking, do you know what? I'll not get it until we actually kill Elisand on Mythic, and that's exactly when I got it. Killed it on Mythic, coined it. I'd never got one before then. By which time, of course, it was not as useful. It was useful on Gul'dan, actually. But I mean, I don't want it anymore. In fact, I've disenchanted it. No point in it. Trinkets is the main reason, usually, for the build-up of gear clogging up my bags. Because I keep thinking, oh, it might be useful in this situation. And then, usually what happens is a couple of months later, I look at the item level and go, look, it's not going to be useful. Because it's too low item level now. And then I do a purge, where I disenchant a load of them. Well, I mean, no upgrades are likely. I mean, 10k DPS is not much in the grand scheme of things, but it's, you know, it's something. Most things, when you get an upgrade of it, don't actually translate to be a massive upgrade. Unless you get a ridiculously high Titan Forge of something. Yeah, that was what was so desperately annoying yesterday when we killed Imonar, because that drops my Bis tier, the legs. And I hadn't had a successful coin roll for 7 in a row. So the bad luck protection was building up, and I thought, next one's going to get me loot. Next coin. Imonar, killed it. I thought, yes, get it. And the thing is, it's really annoying. I don't know whether this is the game. It might not be. It might just be Elv UI, because I use that as my UI add-on. But it crushes your spirit, because what happens is you roll the coin, and then you get a thing saying loot, and you go, yes, got the tier legs, excellent. But you have to wait to see what you've actually got. I could glance down, of course, see what's in my bags, but you're looking at the loot window, and then it says Cloak of Uselessness. Great. So now I'm back on 0 for my bad luck protection on coins. Really hoping I would have got those legs. Still going for a Titan Forge Arcana Crystal. Well, I have a 910 from the vendor, the Vindicar vendor, which I use at the moment. It would be nice to have a higher one, but you know, that will do. Wish that Crusade was less of an impact on overall damage. Well, you know, yes. I mean, it can be nice. It can be useful if you've got a DPS cooldown that massively increases your damage. It's useful for key moments in a fight. Like sometimes you'll hold off onto it, and it will make you useful at a particular part of the fight. Let's say a priority add, or just a phase where the boss takes extra damage, something like that. Like a classic one is in the dungeon Vault of Wardens, where the ice boss, you know, when you stun him, having Crusade lined up, so you've got your full stacks for that, and let that go. Absolutely fantastic. You've got the 910 and the Sargeras trinket. I don't have the Sargeras trinket. Either the game is just screwing me over and I'll not get a Path of the Titans trinket for like 3 months, or it's helping me build up my luck so that I get Amonthor's Vision. I will not be disappointed if I got that, because we've actually got now in the guild, because it's Christmas basically. So yesterday was our last progress night for a couple of weeks. So for the next couple of weeks, we're going to just be doing raids on the Wednesday and Thursday. So this week we're going to be raiding Wednesday, Thursday, but not Sunday, Monday. I mean, that's Christmas Eve and Christmas Day for a start. Even I wouldn't raid them. But then the following week as well, because then that's New Year's Eve and New Year. So for the next couple of weeks, we're only planning on trying to get some farm stuff done, build our gear up. And so I've got a couple of weeks to have a crack at getting a trinket where it's relatively chill, because I know there's not going to be any more progress. Well, 40k DPS is more significant. On High Command Mythic, every time you get Crusade, at least 2 mines thrown at you. Well, you can move with Crusade. You just have to sidestep. You've got the Path of Titans trinket. It's actually better than the legendary one for warriors. Is it? Do you mean when you've got the item level up high enough, or just as it would be now? Because it's not that good for me. It's not that good for Rets, the actual effect of it. So Amonful's vision is best. Even on a par, even when item level's on a par, you just want the stats. Did I just say chill? There's nothing wrong with that. I don't use hip slang now. In fact, I specifically correct my students when they use inappropriate language in my lesson. I mean, it might not. I don't know. It might not be. Maybe stats are not all that useful as the proc. But I know for I can't remember, because I did run some sims on all the strength users. I can't remember what it was now for warriors. The proc rate is known to be quite high. Yeah, it does proc a lot. People in my guild have noted that. The ones that have got it, of course, or the ones who claim to have got it. I still just think it's an elaborate troll, and there's no such thing as these trinkets. The world is trolling me, pretending that they exist. So on 2 of your Argus kills, 2 of them got the class legendaries. I'm not interested in that. It's the Amonthul's one that's the real good one. Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, so they just see legendary flash up and they thought it was Amonthul's. Yeah, Blizzard caught me out with that on the 2nd reset. Is that what we've just had? No, this is the 3rd reset, technically. 2nd of Mythic. So what happened was last week, not this week, killed Argus first time on like Heroic. And then I saw something flash up before the cinematic thing. And I thought, oh. But of course it was the Pantheon's Blessing, the item you used to upgrade them. Which, to begin with, didn't even stack. It stacked a day later. They soon got onto that when a lot of people complained, me included. So I talked about the Retribution passive more than one recently, yeah. If they remove the damage component, would Ret Paladin need other buffs to compensate? Yes, they would, but that would be the point. It would be reliable damage then. Excuse me. The problem with Ret Paladins at the moment is, like, all right, take Imanar, for example, and this is a classic case. We wiped on that, however many times we wiped on it. 2 minute mark. It was all right, I don't know. But I was very frequently top or very close to top of damage. When we killed it, I was still all right on damage, but not as high because not as many people died. But there were still people who died. Now, what's going to happen at some point, as we get better on that fight, fewer people are going to die. Maybe even no one will die one time. And then I won't get any retribution procs and my damage will be horseshit. And it's the same thing that happened with Mythic Sisters. You know, that was a classic fight where there was no real hard DPS check. So when people died, because you could afford to have people die and still kill it. You could afford absolute carnage. My best logs, my best parsers were ones where just loads of people died throughout the fight. And that was all there was to it. That's as simple as that. Mythic Argus is an absolute meme boss for us because of the deaths, indeed. Except Mythic, it doesn't look like it's going to be that straightforward. I didn't see a lot of people dying on Method's kill video. And that's the other problem as well. Like, as soon as people stop dying on it in that 3rd phase, because there's no reason for people to die all the time. A couple of people, all right, you'd expect with Soul Burst. Although I survived Soul Burst, so I don't know why other people don't. And I don't pop anything for it. I haven't got anything to pop for it. Well, the thing is, you say, yeah, Heroic Argus, you had 22% uptime overall. If you look specifically at the final phase, you will see you've got Retribution passive for quite a lot of it. The only downside is in the third phase is that if people are mostly people are likely to die due to the soul burst, and they usually take that away from the raid, which can easily mean taking it out of range to even get the retribution passive. But you know, that's just, we'll probably talk more about. I mean, I'm doing the next live Rec Q&A this Saturday, so we'll probably talk about that then. Before I forget, by the way, I should probably just say, I don't know. Like, I will probably be streaming most days over my break, not Christmas Day, but the other days. That will include next Tuesday, but I don't know. I was saying this in the streams recently. I don't know whether or not to do an Azeroth review next Tuesday. If there's going to be people there, then I can. But I might put a poll on Twitter, actually, and YouTube. Maybe I'll put a poll on both and just find out. Because, and somehow try and separate out people who answer both. Because otherwise I could just stream something and just have a casual chat rather than doing one of these where there might not be enough people. So let's have a look, sorry. Struggling with, oh, hell. Uptime on Heroic Argus. Now people want to survive. Oh yeah, well that's the problem. People start living, which is bad news for Ret Paladins. Well, sometimes guys, they say could always schedule one, see who turns up. Right at the start, you don't actually have very many. There wasn't very many today, for example. And yes, some people, Clefado, will watch it and not necessarily put anything in there. The problem with something like this is if there's no one sort of feeding comments, it's just me rabbiting on for ages, and I can easily do that while playing a game. So it may not go on. The reason is not just because it's Christmas week, which for anyone might mean people visiting families and stuff like that. In the UK, it's a slight special holiday. In fact, that was one of my quiz questions that caught out a lot of my students. You know, because I have a round where it's like Christmas traditions around the world. And one of them was, which country has a special celebration on December 26th? And very few of my students got that it's actually us. It's actually us in the UK. Boxing Day, it's called. Or it used to be called St. Stephen's Day. And then in Victorian times, it became Boxing Day. But yeah, so I'll have to... The KFC in Japan one is a cracker, yeah. Somehow managed to pug Agrimar, Coven and Argus on Heroic. Yet you can't get a pug to kill Portal Keeper or High Command. Is that because on Portal Keeper, people have actually got to go in the portal and not, like, whore on the boss? And on High Command, someone's got to go in a pod? I don't really know how it works on Heroic, because on Mythic, I have to go in a pod as well. Everyone has to go in a pod. But on Heroic and Normal, I think you can just get, you know... You don't get the... Do you get the debuff? You don't get the debuff for the whole fight, otherwise you couldn't have anyone go, you know. I'm rambling. It must work different, because I've never had to do the pod on Heroic or Normal. But on Mythic, everyone has to. Yeah, Normal, one person can do every pod. I think it's probably this. Oh, Heroic, you get a... Oh, okay, it's time limited debuff, is it? So you need fewer people to do the pods then, in that case. Mythic, it lasts all fights. So once you've done, done a pod, so you do basically, unless you're going to start killing it a lot quicker. Like I always do. I'm always the first one in the third pod on Mythic. Let's have a look. Have I ever played or even discussed about WoW with one of my students? I haven't had a student that's played WoW for some time, but I have had students in the past that have played it. But not for a while, not for a few years. So, well... I guess it's that reason then you need... I can only speculate if it's particularly problematic to do Portal, because you're asking people to do something that's not really in line with them getting great logs. Whereas Coven, I mean, what you want people to do is to survive and kill things. And it really doesn't matter what they kill, because everything needs to die. Agrimar... Same sort of thing, I suppose. You know, everything does... Well, the little lads you're not supposed to piss about with, are you, I suppose? But then again, you wouldn't necessarily want to unless you're a multi-dotter. And Argus, same sort of thing, really. If you don't survive, then you're not going to do any damage. Whereas Portal Keeper, it's about run away over there where there's not as much damage to do. Don't want to. I'll leave it for someone else. That would, I imagine, be the attitude in a pug. But I mean, I can't get into pugs of any kind anyway, so it doesn't worry me. I have no chance. I can't even get into pugs to do Mythic Plus. And I actually, yeah, in fact, that's the point, yeah. I was trying to get into a pug for Heroic Antorus. It was in the first week because in the when it opened, I'd had a late evening. There was an open event at work. So I'd got back only in time for Varimathras onwards. So I'd done the last 4 bosses on Heroic, which meant I had the ahead of the curve achievement. And then I attempted, on someone's advice, to get into a pug to try and do the earlier bosses, just in case I got lucky with a bit of loot. But I could make a group of my own key, certainly, yeah. I prefer to just do it in guild, though. I've managed to do it in guild this week. I've actually had 2 runs with the guild this week. So I've been fine with it. Well, Jimmy, even curve wasn't enough to get me into a pug. You know, there was a heroic pug. It was on Tuesday, the day before the reset. And I was able to even link them. I have ahead of the curve. You can't ask for more than that. Even method players don't have more than that at the moment. And it still wasn't enough. I was declined every time I tried to join a pug for heroic thingy Antorus. I can't get into them. It reminded me of when I was for Hellfire Citadel in Warlords of Draenor. That was where with to upgrade to Legendary Ring you had to collect some things from Hellfire Citadel. So it would take you a few weeks. And I had to go on holiday. So I missed the, and this was just the normal, like normal would have done, but I missed the guild heroic normal run. And I needed to kill Archimon basically to get, no, hang on. No, I needed bosses in general, sorry, to get the little things to get to for that one. Or had I already got that and it was just the upgrade item I needed? I can't remember. For whatever reason, I needed to do heroic for Hellfire Citadel. No. Hellfire Citadel on some difficulty. So I actually just tried to get normal. And I was someone with several mythic kills in Hellfire Citadel to my name. And I could not get into a normal pug with mythic achievement kills. If they checked my DPS on WoW Progress, I don't think it would be lacking. If they check my Mythic Plus score, then they will. Because not only have I moved realm, but I don't do that many. I do, you know, if I only do 1 a week for the plus 15, that's fine. You know, if people want to do other ones that I'm about, then that's fine too. But yeah, so if they look at anything on WoW Progress, if they look at the Mythic Plus score, then yeah. But if for the raid purposes, if they looked on the raid, the Mythic WoW Progress for the raid thing, I don't know what their issue would have been. That's why you're struggling for Agrimar. You've curve and multi-kills on other bosses, but still can't get into Agrimar to get the trinket. Oh dear. I know you can transfer your Mythic Plus score, but what I'm saying is my Mythic Plus score wouldn't have been that great from the old realm either, because I don't do a lot of Mythic Plus. I do like every now and then. And every now and then someone will want me to go and do a high key with them, but again, I don't push them myself. If people want me to go, I'll go. So that's few and far between. So the actual score doesn't go up highly. So a lot of times you found it's have pulls and experience on boss. You can't get into pugs because you don't have the experience. Oh, well, it does get to be a vicious circle, of course. Well, this is why ultimately you always want to be in a guild that wants to do the content that you want to do. I mean, I would never advise anyone on a regular basis pug raids or anything. This is why you're far better off joining a guild of people who are interested in doing the same content that you are, if possible. I know some people will join a guild for, you know, as a friendship group, but you know, I because you do get into that vicious cycle in a pug, and by this time as well, if you haven't got ahead of the curve, you can forget it, unless you make your own group. Sorry, what do you mean, meant the relic? Oh, right, yeah, it's on Agamar. But yeah, I mean, that's why it's just, I mean, it's very rare that I've needed to even try and pug. It's just that when I do try and pug, I don't get into them. It's frankly hilarious at times. Unless the pug is actually organised by someone I know, because I'm not going to go to all the effort organising a pug. But, and like I say, it's not something I do regularly anyway. Should do a rep pug. I was actually saying yesterday on Iminar, Mythic Iminar, if there is a fight that I've ever seen where you'd probably actively want, nothing but Retribution Paladins for the DPS, Mythic Iminar is the boss. Mythic Iminar, if you just took Retribution Paladins for your DPS, that'd be a really good boss to do. Because you're fairly defensive. Melee are actually favourite, for all my moaning sometimes about the fact that on a lot of bosses, if there's an imbalance required between melee and range, it's always you want more range and not so much melee. And that's still the case in Antorus. It's just that here's one boss where that's not the case. You actually don't want many ranged. But then it's not one of those tough bosses. The problem is it's the really tricky bosses that you really want to be in on that you can't be in on because it's really bad. Like Coven is the big one in this one. But yeah, Iminar, you want melee. You want melee who can survive pretty well. And if someone does die, you know, let's say you've got, how many, I mean, we took like 6 healers. So 6 healers, 2 tanks. That's excessive for most fights. So that's 12 DPS. But still, if one person dies, that means 11 people are getting a retribution proc. Do I think either AC or the Verse Trinket in the new raid is needed to be able to go haste 31.25? Probably. Yes. There is a fair amount of haste gear in Antorus. And of course, if you do enough Mythic Pluses, obviously that gives you access to as well. But yeah, I think you really want trinkets with haste on if you want to go up to decent haste levels. I mean, the dream, of course, is Amanthal's Vision and Arcana Crystal. That is the dream. There is versatility on gear, though. That's the thing. I don't think it's very easily avoidable. You don't need 31.25% haste. Like I'm managing at the moment on 24. I would like more. But unfortunately I had to sacrifice some in order to get more mastery. Because you've got to remember the tier pieces aren't actually brilliantly optimized. So you can easily get versatility on tier pieces. You don't need that much versatility. I mean, you've also got to remember when you're simming, this applies to any class, not just rets. When you're simming your stat weights for something, you have to bear in mind, if you're doing a progress boss and you're using a Vantus rune, in reality, you're going to have 1500 more versatility than the sim thinks you will, which actually devalues it a little bit. You've got 68% mastery. I still don't even have 60. It's about 56, 57 mine at the moment, which is a significant upgrade on what it was a week or so ago. So it's trundling along okay. we need to see what... Oh, I've just remembered. Hang on. Is the next Antorus cache available, mission cache available yet? I can't remember. Might be tomorrow, actually. I need to check that. Although mine will be heroic again. I think someone said you need 12 mythic bosses before the mission cache would give you a mythic item. And I have killed 6. Is it 6? Yeah. So at least, well, it's not this one. The next cache that I get will be another heroic item. The one after it, hopefully, will be a mythic one then. Well, my affliction, not affliction, behave yourself, don't have affliction rogues. Assassination rogue has like 140 to 150, something like that. You know, with like not even trying. So you've got yours just now. Yeah, it might be available then. I'll have to check it out after we finish up here. But and then I can use it in the actual heroic run tomorrow. Get it straight away. But it will be a heroic one. But hopefully it'll be the case that afterwards it'll be mythic. Because it's about, well, I can't remember exactly how far. You know, it's roughly every second week or something, isn't it? That you'll get one. I still need to do the Tomb of Sargeras one, actually. I got the Tomb of Sargeras mission. I'm just going to LFR and do that. I can't remember who it's for, though. I can't remember which boss it's for. Might be Mistress Scene. So I need to go in and do that again. Because that at least is a mythic Tomb of Sargeras item, 930 item. For which I might get Titan Forged Abyss Fire Relic. That would be nice. Yeah, some specs just seem to have ridiculous numbers of a particular stat, mastery being the most likely. Whereas for me, it's on my ret, it's more balanced. What missions am I talking about? The ones, yeah, the ones you get from the order hall, the mission you send out, which gives you well, if you make it 200% chance, you get a bonus coin. But you also get an item that starts a quest that says, go and kill this boss in this raid, and we'll give you some loot. But the quality of that loot depends on how much you've progressed already. So to get a mythic one, you needed to have killed, I think I'm told, 12 mythic bosses. Might be 11. I mean, there's 11 in the thing. Usually it's a full set plus 1. So that would make it 12. What do I think they're going to do with the new PTR concordance changes? I shudder to think. There is no reason for them to change it from 50 to 100 unless they were planning on another expansion of the power of the artifact weapons. There's zero reason at all, because even if they like suddenly gave us more artifact knowledge, which of course they would have to do, because at the moment it's not even possible to get to 50 as far as I understand it. I don't think it's even possible realistically to get to 50 at any point in Legion, obviously if we played the game for long enough. But in Legion I don't think it's possible. Not 100%. But so to go to 100, they're obviously going to have to give us more artifact knowledge, and there's going to have to be a reason to do it. Because no one cares at the moment. Once you've got your 75, no one cares. So yeah, I mean they've done it in every tier, this expansion, where halfway through the tier they've increased the power of our artifact. It just sounds like they're planning on doing that again. I don't know with what. You know, the first time they gave us new traits. Second time it was the Netherlight Crucible. This time, I don't even know. Whatever it is, I hope they think about very, very carefully, because even the thought of it, I think, is just causing rolled eyes amongst a lot of people. No, it better not be anything to do with the Netherlight Crucible. Gordon Bennett, no, it has to be something different. But I couldn't even begin to guess at what. Need more concordance ranks to soak Sargeras' corruption sword. Well, we will be losing our artifact weapons. It is technically in the realm of spoilers as to how we lose at the moment, so I won't say anything further. People can easily look it up themselves. But no, whatever it is will still be tied, you would think, to Antorus, because it, well, or would it? Well, maybe it wouldn't. It would be for the purpose of nerfing Antorus, though, wouldn't it? More of a just in case to make sure no one actually maxes their artifact weapon. No. I'm quite. I can't do it at the moment, but you could soon work it out. Like, how much does it go up by each time? Is it like increased by 25% or something? The amount of AP that you need? Can't remember. It's something like that. So I also can't remember how many concordance ranks like 75 is. Does anyone remember or are in game and can sort of say how many? Let's say we've got about 25 concordance ranks at 75 or something. It's about that, because I think your full traits before you get concordance is about 51. So 24, that makes sense. So let's say, for example, we do 1.2 to the power of 26. Let's put an equal sign in, you idiot. That doesn't look right. So the amount of, let me see now. So let's say you need about 250 billion AP to get your 75th trait or something. I'm only guessing at this point. It might have been more, but it really doesn't matter. Just ballpark figure here. That would mean that to get your 50th point of concordance from 49, remember, not from where we are at 75, from 49, so each one has taken an increased amount up there, that would mean you would need, in American money, 28.6 trillion AP just to go from 49 to 50. That's to say nothing of what you need to go to 75 to 76, 76 to 77, 77 to 78, and so on. And that's with just going up by 20% each time. I think it's more like 25%, but I can't remember exactly. So to get up to the 50th concordance point, which would be in reality, what, 101 rank traits on your weapon, which is the current cap, just to get that last trait, you're going to need 28.6 trillion. Now, how long do you think it's going to take? You couldn't even get 28.6 trillion for most people in a year. So, like, even the ones who go hardcore, they have no way of getting to the cap. So there has to be some increase in artifact knowledge to come. And that has to be for a purpose. There will also have to be some impetus to get us to spend it, which I'm not looking forward to. So yeah, I mean, it is impossible to get to the cap. Yeah, they have to, because you can't actually get to the cap at the moment. So it's really simple. I mean, it's only data mined. They haven't said anything about it. And, but, you know, even if it's something they ultimately don't do, it's something they're actively thinking about at the moment because it's been put into the game files for the PTR. And the fact that it's in the 7.3.5 ones doesn't prove, but does suggest that it's also You know, whatever's coming is coming in 7.3.5, and, you know, that's probably not going to be much more than a month away. Maybe a way to make the next pre-patch raid tier... Well, there isn't. Not be a raid tier won't be the right thing, but the raid. Now, I mean, if they bring it out, it's always for the purposes of nerfing the current tier, because they bring it halfway through. Imagine we can get secondary stats filled like in D3, the first 800. I haven't really played much Diablo 3 endgame stuff. I sort of leveled a few characters up and not really done much after that. But I really think they need to think very, very carefully about what they implement, and not to implement something like the Netherlight Crucible, where as soon as it was announced how it was going to work, was instantly attacked. You know, they need to think about that. It could be a good test, though, to see if they've really, what they think are the problems with Legion. Because anything that they identify with a problem with Legion, they will have changed for BFA and get rid of it. Anything they think has worked well for Legion, they will keep doing for BFA, of course, and perhaps increase it and improve it. So obviously the legendaries have been dropped, in their current form at the very least, but legendaries basically been dropped. So that's good that they recognise that's been a problem. But I don't know about this type of RNG that people don't like. We'll just have to wait and see what they are going to do to make us want to go on the AP treadmill again in 7.3.5. Be particularly annoying for me because I'm hoping that at that time, I mean, it is a hope. I don't know, I've got much confidence. But I'm hoping that obviously I'll still be raiding Antorus. I'll still be progressing on Antorus. I'll also be wanting to do some stuff in the BFA beta, which is hopefully going to be out at the time. I'm quite sure we'll be out at the time. It's going to be weird getting a Mythic Plus weekly chest and not going, well, that's a tier slot or BIS legendary slot. So that's trash even when it's a massive eye level jump. Well, there's still 4 slots that are going to be taken out. Also, I don't... Well, yeah, there's still 4 because there's 3 Azerite armor pieces and then the neck. Anyone know how long the Chosen achievement is until it's removed? As far as I know, it hasn't been removed yet. In which case, it might well last all the way up until the pre-expansion patch. So that could well be, you might well still have, not quite another year you would hope, but you know, you might still have quite some time to go. Because if they were going to remove it before the pre-expansion patch, you would have thought they'd have removed it by now. Maybe they feel that you can still die on it from the mechanics, even if you can beat everything up fairly quickly. In fact, actually, when you can kill things really quickly, that can make people reckless. The Chosen achievement is for doing Trial of Valor on Mythic mode with... Is it Mythic mode or is it any mode? But it's for doing Trial of Valor without dying. I'm pretty sure... Was it? It was Mythic. There you go. So yeah, it's to do... And that included trash, by the way. So you couldn't die on trash. You weren't allowed to leave the instance either. If you left the instance, because you basically got a buff at the start. And if you left the instance, you would lose the buff, and that meant you could no longer get it. It was always a really annoying one, because on Helya, it's possible to get someone else killed. Or in fact, not just Helya. It's possible to get someone else killed. Certainly on Helya. Also on Guam. Probably less so on Odin, but, you know. Yeah. So, fortunately, I mean, I've got mine. But So, but yeah, I believe it is still obtainable. Oh, the Immortal one on Kel'Thuzad. I can't remember. The Immortal one was the 25-man, wasn't it? That's the one I've got. Well, we had one fail on Kel'Thuzad. And what caused it, and it was hugely annoying. So basically, we'd gone through the whole raid. It was fine. Yeah, we're going to do it now. Got to Kel'Thuzad, which actually, you know, it wasn't the easiest boss, but still. And then at the start of it, when the abomination, you know, the starting event, which is a load of crap when a load of trash just comes towards you, some idiot put down a train, the toy train thing, and it just distracted everyone, and like 2 people died. So actually, we blamed not the people who died, but the idiot who put the train down. So yeah, we didn't get it that week either. So we actually took longer to get it than we should have done. I can't remember the date in the end that we got it on. But that was spectacularly annoying. Because that was, for me, that was the last thing to do anyway. Because that was the point at which I'd already decided I was going to stop playing the game. Because I was so miffed with Wrath of the Lich King. That first tier was god-awful. Absolutely awful. So, because it was really annoying, you know, spending 3 days, basically, progressing all the raid bosses, and then spending the next half a year or whatever just getting achievements, a load of crap. So I quit just before Ulduar. I had no idea Ulduar was actually going to be good. There you go. Guy was on his rogue and Kel'Thuzad just turned around and killed him for no reason we could figure out. There were, well... There were a few things that could get you killed. If it was me, I'd have been blamed for taunt. Well, not at the time, but nowadays. That's why I don't even have taunt on my bar. There was an awkward situation yesterday on M&R where people were calling for like a taunt through bubble with Paladin. Which, okay, fine. Then I was thinking to myself, oh crap, if someone asked me to do that, I'm in a bit of trouble. I'd have to go into my spell book. Because I haven't for a little while had taunt on my bars because I occasionally use it by mistake. I have no idea why. Occasionally I use it by mistake. Which causes problems. You had a wipe on Kill Jaden because some guy placed the Moonkin statue. Someone soaking Armageddon was confused. Didn't recognise the new chicken form, are you? People, yeah, I mean, you shouldn't use those sort of things really on progress or any tough boss. You know, it should. I mean, the guild I was in where this happened on the Kel'Thuzad, by the way, that was actually a series. You know, that was the most progressed guild I've ever been in. That was well inside the top 100. So, you know, short shrift was given to them. It was not laughed off, put it that way. And it was actually quite a nice guild. It wasn't like a guild where people shout at each other all the time. But on that particular occasion, you know, it was very much pointed out to them that as far as we were concerned, the achievement was progress, and that had cocked it up for a whole week for us at least. So yeah, but you really shouldn't be using those sort of things on a progress boss because it can distract people and it can cause trouble. But I don't know why people keep putting down that Moonkin thing. I mean, I keep clicking off the aura. I should probably just make a macro. I have a macro that removes various auras. It removes my Divine Shield. It removes gnoming if people use the thingy copy to copy appearance and they turn you into a gnome. I have one to remove that instantly. I should maybe add the Moonkin thing into it as well. I just need to get the ID of it. And then I could do that. But anyway, I'll leave it usual thing. I'll just notice the time, a few minutes over. So I'll just leave it open for any last little comments that people want to put in, and then I'll close it up. Remember, next Tuesday, I'm not 100% if I will try and remember to put a poll on somewhere. If there's enough people sort of say, yes, I'll be there, then I'll put it on. Otherwise, I will still be on. It's just that I will just stream something else and do it as a casual thing. It might be an idea to do that anyway. I might think of doing that anyway. because I'm not expecting in the next week for there to be a great deal of news, if anything, other than maybe some more guilds killing, defeating Antorus. So it may be, I'm only going to say maybe at the moment, that I just stream some games, whatever it happens to be. Probably not WoW if it's on a Tuesday, but chat about WoW if necessary. But I'm not going to say anything definite. Just follow on Twitter and I'll sort of keep people updated when I can, basically, on that one. But I'll call it an end there then, because that seems to have stopped. Thanks very much for coming. And I will see you again, well, whenever. I'm streaming again tomorrow. I'll be streaming every day apart from Christmas Day for the next couple of weeks. And then it'll go back to the normal schedule when I go back to work in the new year. But have a good night, everyone. Have fun in Antorus. Next reset. Well, current reset, if you're in North America, actually. Next reset for me. Good luck with your mythic caches. And I will see you later.